Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Today, we've got so much stuff we want to share with you, so much great information that you'll be able to use starting today. First of all, have you ever struggled with your sleep? Yeah, everyone seems to be these days. So Evolution Sleep is an insomnia therapy program. Imagine having a restful night's sleep. We're going to show you how that can actually happen every single night. Time if that helps. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sure this guy has heard it all. He's the owner of Evolution Sleep. Aaron Arkin is here. Man, you're like the savior for people who are sleep deprived. And I know because I've been there when I was working morning radio, getting up at 3:30 in the morning. After about 3 years, I thought I was going to lose my mind. And people like you are so helpful to people who are struggling with sleep deprivation.
Sure.
So let's talk about insomnia first of all. What is it technically?
Well, there's a few different definitions of insomnia. There's different ways to look at it from a clinical standpoint. From my point of view, I like to keep it as simple as possible, and I use a very simple 3x3 matrix. If for the past 3 weeks you've been having trouble sleeping for 3 nights, then maybe it's time to speak to somebody.
Oh, okay. So that's all it takes. And the effects of sleep deprivation, they don't sneak up on you. I mean, it's pretty immediate, right?
It's pretty immediate. One of the most common things I hear about from people that are talking about having poor sleep, what the complaints are, is irritability the next day. Nothing necessarily that might be physical, but they just feel irritable, they feel cranky the next day. They can still do what they need to do, but they do it at a very low level of performance. So one thing that we try to promote is how we're going to get you enough sleep that you can be feeling at your best throughout the course of the day.
You can be yourself.
Exactly.
And not want to eat chocolate all day long.
That's true.
Because when you don't have enough sleep, suddenly you're craving carbs like crazy.
You are, and especially something like chocolate that has caffeine in it, you might not realize it, but it can also impact your sleep as well.
Oh, and what a vicious cycle. You're using the caffeine and the carbs to get some energy.
Certainly.
The caffeine and the carbs are messing with your insulin and your natural sleep rhythm, right? And then it spirals.
And when you throw the thoughts on top of it, the thoughts you're having about how everything is affecting your sleep can make it even worse.
That's right. So now when you do have time to fall
Correct.
asleep, your brain's going. So it's pretty common, right?
It's pretty common. There's some published numbers in terms of anywhere from 10% to 50% of people that go in to see their family doctors have a sleep complaint. But you can use the subway in the morning, or you can walk down the street and you can see people whose heads are hanging low. In the workplace, you can see people that are just not performing as optimally as they could be. And if you ask the questions, you can probably trace it back to the fact that they're having a very poor night of sleep at home.
Kids are dealing with this now too. How did you get into the sleep business?
It's a bit of an interesting story. I started as an undergraduate student. I went to Trent University and I was a psychology major. I signed up in a third-year research course just to learn how to conduct research in psychology. The professor whom I was paired with was a sleep and memory researcher, something that I thought was really interesting, so I read everything I possibly could on the subject. I graduated with my Bachelor of Science degree, and then from there I found work in sleep laboratories across Toronto. Grew kind of boring working overnight. It was not something I wanted to do. I went to graduate school in the United States to study a little further, came back to Toronto, and I found work with a company called Sandman, where I was traveling the country setting up sleep laboratories. So Canada's a pretty large country, and it's pretty diverse with how they do what they do. And I saw that most laboratories do great jobs with a disorder known as sleep apnea, something pretty common and something that there's a few really great treatments for. But what I did notice was there was a void with people that were having sleep issues that really weren't something physical. They weren't having a physical problem with their sleep. There was something behavioral. And that's when I started to learn more about insomnia and learn more about what the treatments for insomnia are.
We've got about 3.5 minutes. Let's talk about the process that
Sure.
you've developed.
Certainly. So the first thing we do is we have somebody come in and we do a fairly thorough assessment. There's about a 35-item questionnaire that we interview the patients about, and then we set them up to do an objective sleep study using this device.
Oh, what's this?
It's called Sleep Image. The patients take it home and they wear it. There's one channel that connects underneath their collarbone. It's very easy to use, and it gives me a wealth of data about their sleep. Throughout the course of the program, they wear the device every night that they come in for a session, and we get a lot of data about them, and we try to improve those objective data points throughout the course of the program.
So it tells you probably when they're being restless, when they're in REM sleep,
Certainly.
that sort of thing?
It gives me a lot of information in terms of what position they're lying in, when they're awake versus when they're asleep, if they're snoring, a lot of information about the quality of their sleep, how many times they awake throughout the night. And what we try to do is we try to improve upon these numbers throughout the course of the program, throughout the interventions that we're using.
All right. What else? It's a 5-step, so that's step 1.
Correct.
Get that thing going.
That's right. The second session, we talk a little more about sleep education, what sleep is, how sleep works, how it works with our body. And we do a concept known as cognitive restructuring, where we challenge some negative ideas that we might have about sleep. We put a positive spin on them using the research, and we have them go forward with some of these more positive, more adaptive thoughts that are designed to help them sleep better.
Instead of lying there and thinking, oh, I hope I sleep tonight. Oh, I'm so tired. I hope I'm not so sleepy. I don't know. You've got them thinking more positive things.
Exactly.
Next?
The next thing we do is we talk a little bit about sleep medication. I'm not a physician, so I'm not prescribing anything or telling them to stop something that their physicians have prescribed for them. So we speak a little bit about medication, then we work on a specific sleep schedule. We talk about when the ideal time for them to go into bed and what the ideal time for them to get out of bed is every day. What we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize the time that they're spent in bed actually sleeping.
Very good. And then, hopefully by then, they're starting to sleep.
Usually by the third session, we're starting to see some positive results. The next thing we do is we talk a little bit about relaxation, how we can go about being a little more relaxed in bed that is going to help us bring upon a more natural and a more restful sleep, both when we get into bed initially and after we awaken if we wake up in the middle of the night for whatever reason.
Brilliant. Is that 4 steps?
That's the 4th. The last
What's
session, we spend a little bit of time talking about sleep hygiene, just little things that we can do to help us sleep better. And then we review the overall program to see where the successes are and what we can build on moving forward. The intention isn't to fix somebody's sleep after 6 weeks. It's to give somebody tools for their toolbox, where 5 months, 6 years down the road, whatever it is, they're going to be able to sleep better for the rest of their lives.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. If someone wants your help, where can they get a hold of you?
Certainly. They can find me online, evolutionsleep.com, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's all those different ways.
Great. So all they have to do is contact you, and you'll take it from there.
Correct.
And this is great that you can now attach yourself to a device that tracks your sleep, so you don't have to remember, you're not having to take meticulous logs.
Exactly.
It's all logged in here.
And it's very simple. I've had 8-year-olds wear it. I've had 80-year-olds wear it. It's really very easy to use, and it gives me a lot of objective data.
Brilliant. There you go. Are you ready to finally sleep? Here's the website again, evolutionsleep.com. What a great way to finally get a restful sleep. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good information. So